Hello again, students. Okay, following on from the previous lesson that we did, which was vocabulary. Okay, remember it was compound adjectives was the main thing we were looking at. Okay, this is the next page, page 13 in your books. Okay, and we're going to be working just with a little bit of a grammar focus, and especially something called conjunctions. Conjunctions are things that tend to join two parts of a sentence, but the ones you're probably more familiar with at the moment are things like however, although, even though. Okay, and we're just going to look at some more conjunctions which are perhaps just a little bit more advanced. Okay, you must keep using the ones you already know. Furthermore, in addition, okay, these are all conjunctions. They all sort of join sentences or join ideas. Okay, and so this is what we're going to look at now. All right, it's not so much to do. There are just a few here. Oh no, wrong page. Wait a minute, let's go back. What I meant to do was that. It's quite early in the morning. Okay, so we'll make that a bit bigger. So again, once again, if any of you don't have the book, I'll try to leave this well, big enough so that you can see it from the video, and then move forward, through the video and do the exercises. Okay. There's a question here: work in pairs and discuss what is meant by the past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. If I get a chance today, when we're doing the speaking in pairs, I'm going to ask you that. Okay. Maybe you're watching this before or after we've had that conversation. Okay, number 2, read an extract from a blog about a visit to a childhood home. Summarize the main reasons the writer found the visit unsatisfactory. Okay, well, when we get to the end, we can look at that. Okay, and this is an expression we use when you want to go back and remember the past. We sometimes call it a trip down memory lane. Okay, and it says, when I was a child, we lived in a lovely old house in a village. It backed onto a perfect sandy beach where my sister and I spent many happy afternoons. I have often thought about that house and wished I could go back. A few weeks ago, my sister discovered that it had been turned into a bed and breakfast, and that it was possible to stay there. We were both very excited and made a booking, imagining a blissful weekend reliving our childhood. But it didn't turn out like that. The problem is that the past was probably not as wonderful as we imagine, nor do things stay the same, even if they were wonderful. The people who ran the bed and breakfast had almost completely destroyed everything that I had loved about that house. It had been painted turquoise, and they'd cut down the trees I used to climb. Provided they get planning permission, they will build a wall that will block the view of the beach. That too has changed, but whether or not you think it has improved will depend on your personal tastes. Whereas once it was a deserted stretch of white sand, it is now covered in sunbeds, beach umbrellas, and people. The author, J.P. Hartley, said, "The past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. If only I could visit that country and find our old house as it once was. But as long as it is being run by the current owners, I won't be going back." Sorry about that little part at the end there. My tongue's still not quite awake yet, not moving quick enough. Okay, but as long as it is being run by the current owners, I won't be going back. Okay, good. So what would you say? Just try to think about that. If you had to say in one sentence, why wasn't it a nice trip? Why didn't, what did he find unsatisfactory about that trip back to the old house? Okay, again, I'll probably ask you this in the speaking, okay, if you've had time to watch this. Okay, let's move to conjunctions. Okay. what are conjunctions? Well, we're going to go in a moment to this section here on page 150. But before we do that, I'd just like you to look at the ones that are underlined here. Okay, there are 5 conjunctions: nor, provided, whether, whereas, and as long as. Okay, now then, some of those are for making contrasts. Okay, which ones do you think are for contrasts here? Have a look. Okay, and well, the first one would be whereas. This is an easy one. You might use this in your speaking in the first picture, da 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 da, whereas in the second picture. Okay, and the other one that we could also use for a contrast here would be whether. Okay, whether. You probably heard this in reported speech, reported questions. He asked me if I had, he asked me whether I had. Okay, so it's a synonym for if, especially in reported questions. But you can't use it in conditionals. You can't say whether I had £1 million, I would. Okay, but you can use it in your reported questions. But you can also use it here as a kind of a contrast. Okay, it says that too has changed, but whether or not you think it has improved will depend on your personal tastes. Okay, there's a kind of a contrast going on there. You could also remove the or not. You could say, but whether you think it has improved will depend on your personal taste. But this is a complete fixed phrase here, okay, that we often use, whether or not. Okay, this is giving sort of 2 possibilities and 2 contrasting possibilities. So you can see, in a sense, it is a contrast word. We've got 2 here, which they call giving a condition. This means that it will only happen if something else happens, usually. Okay, and we've got really 2 synonyms here, 2 different ways of saying the same thing. We've got provided they get planning permission, and we also have as long as it is being run. Okay, really both of these mean only if. Okay, that's only if they get planning permission they will build, will provide it. And really what he's put here, but as long as it is being run by the current owners, that he's making the if stronger. Okay, so but only if, it doesn't really work as an only if here, but it's like making as long as a stronger if. Okay, so it's really having the same function as this. And finally, when we go down here to adding information, sorry, I didn't do this. This was also a contrast word. Okay, so we've got an unusual one here for adding information, nor. It's for adding negative information. Okay, if you have a look, it's negative, not as wonderful as we imagine. Okay, so here we've got a negative. Nor do things stay the same. So it's for adding an extra negative point. Okay, I don't like fish for breakfast, nor do I like chinchillin. Okay, so something kind of like negative like that. Okay, so sorry about my example. That's the best I could think of at this time. So these are what we call, again, conjunctions, and there's some here that maybe you don't use or don't use very often. Okay, just move away my highlighting there while I remember. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to page 150. Okay, 150. And where are we? At the bottom of the page here, we have the conjunctions. Okay. Now, the first thing I would like you to do is to, can we see that better? You can see it all. The first thing I'd like you to do is to just read through that carefully. I would like you to pause the video if you can, and then either read that in your book. Make sure you've got it clear. Okay. If you haven't got the book, just pause the video and have a look at the video, read through that now, and I'm going to give you a few seconds, and then I'm going to start talking again, hoping that you've paused. Okay. Okay, good. So you saw that these were used for making a contrast. Now here's another one. Yet. Okay, the task wasn't difficult, yet the task wasn't, sorry, you could say, so I did this wrong, the task wasn't difficult, yet Tom found he couldn't complete it on time. This could be but, okay, that's another way of saying but, really. But in these two, notice we put the contrast at the beginning of the sentence. This one you know, or you should know, okay, although the task wasn't difficult, Tom found it, he couldn't complete it on time. But another one that maybe you don't use, which I would like you to use, the more varied, the more uncommon the language you use, the better at this level. You could say while the task wasn't difficult. So again, this is a nice contrast. And whereas, we would put it in the middle of the sentence, okay? Well, we all know how to use and, okay? He wasn't afraid of taking risks, and he didn't worry about the potential consequences. But what we could do, you notice that this is negative, okay? We can use a nor. He wasn't afraid of taking risks, nor did he worry about the potential consequences. Now, this is like the inversion that I mentioned yesterday in the text. What are we going to do after the nor? We're going to make like a question form, okay? Nor did he worry, nor did he worry, okay? I could say for something like, I can't speak Chinese, nor can I speak Vietnamese, okay? So again, after the nor, you put like a question, nor can I speak, not nor I can, but can I, okay? You change the order of the words after this. Very nice. If you can make a sentence with a negative and then a nor, followed by a question form, question ordered structure in your sentence, this would be very well seen at advanced level. Conjunctions, which are used to give a condition, include as long as, provided that, if, unless, and if only. Okay. And I say we talked about provided and as long as, they really mean only if. But if we want to use, remember, unless, it's another way. It's like a negative if, because here we have if he doesn't, but here we keep this in a positive because we use unless. Here's the negative here. Unless he improves his performance, he won't be promoted. If he doesn't improve his performance, he won't be promoted. And then we've got this thing, it's like a wish. I wish he would have a bit more confidence, but in this sentence it says, if only he would have a bit more confidence, okay? He would do really well. If only he would. If only coronavirus would finish, we could go back to class, okay? It's kind of a conditional there, okay? So what I want you to do now is to move to here. There's another conjunction there. Conjunctions which are used to give a reason. In other words, like because, but we can also use as, since, and so. As he hadn't had time to study, he didn't do as well as he'd hoped Sorry, let me read it again. As he hadn't had time to study, he didn't do as well as he'd hoped in the exam. How can we use so? He hadn't had time to study, so he didn't do as well as he'd hoped in the exam. Okay, so you can see that this is really easy, but it's much more interesting to begin it with this. All right, so I'm going to pause this video now, and I'm going to ask you to have a go at this exercise, okay, and then I'll come back with another short video, and we'll just give you the feedback on that and give you the answers. As I said yesterday, I can't put the answers directly on here, but if you would like me to send you the answer sheet afterwards, I can do that, okay?